Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bharat Army podcast. First things first, a very happy Diwali and a happy New Year to everybody celebrating. And to everybody who's not celebrating, happy Diwali and happy New Year to you too, as well. Why not? Let's spread the love around. We're back on the Bharat Army podcast. And gasp, shock, horror, there is no IPL anymore, everybody. We are back onto the regular format. Team India, the boys in blue, are back and ready to steal the limelight once again. And we're heading off to Australia, everyone. Sunny Australia for our winter tour down under. And we are going to be talking about the white ball series that is happening down there. The series is the ODI series and the T20 series, which is going to be happening in Australia. Very exciting stuff. We haven't seen Team India play for quite a while now. And obviously with the lockdown and everything was, kind of in limbo, but they are back and they are going to be playing an ODI series consisting of 3 games and a T20 series. So let's see who we have to discuss this series on this week's podcast. We have one of my old buddies back on the podcast. We've got Rav from London. How's it going, Rav?
Hi. Yeah, it's good to be back. Lots of good discussion and hopefully looking forward to discussing the picks for the series.
Did you enjoy our IPL podcasts that our other guests were hosting on?
Absolutely. No, I think it was really good to see so many people supporting their teams. I thought it was a great IPL. I thought that even without crowds, I thought some of the games, the super overs, the tension, it was a really, really good series. Obviously back in Easter next year. So we'll look forward to another great IPL.
Do you have an IPL team, Rav?
It kind of changes all the time. It was MI because of Sachin, and then obviously he retired, and then I kind of moved all over the place. But I'm kind of a neutral. Funnily enough, I was due to be flying back from Australia from the final of the World T20 today, because this would have been the day after that final. So, coming back from Australia would have been great with the trophy, but instead we have to discuss other things.
Did you still get like any of those alerts on your phone for like your check-in is now and all of that stuff?
Kayak is still bothering me, which is doing my mental health no good at all. So,
oh dear. Never mind. Hopefully at some point, future-wise, we'll be able to travel and watch cricket again. We also have Ahan. How's it going, Ahan? You're back talking about India this time. Obviously, we didn't really get to talk much about the IPL final. We never really had a review podcast of it. Any final thoughts now that time has passed on that IPL final, Mr. Delhi Capitals fan number 1?
No, nothing to say. We were outplayed on the day and the better team won. Thank God that team had India in it. Let's hope that the other team, India, lives up to the same standards that Mumbai Indians have set. Because
yes,
that's
indeed.
what we are expecting.
Indeed, yeah. And looking at some of this lineup in there, fair few Delhi Capitals players actually in there. So, it looks like they're going to be a fair few makeups of a couple of IPL mashups in there. We also have Neha joining us. Neha, how's it going?
Hello, it's going great. Finally representing Team India. I think you all were divided by the IPL teams, now finally united and representing Team India. So it's great.
Yes, of course. Me and you were very united during the IPL because you, of course, are a Chennai Super Kings fan and wanted them to win. And I had predicted Chennai Super Kings to win the entire thing. And they finished dead last. So
I think next time, please don't predict and jinx it. Probably don't ever say CSK is going to win.
Listen, I'm making my prediction now. Next IPL, Mumbai Indians are going to be the ones who win it. That's my prediction.
Wow, what a brave prediction.
I know, right? I tell you, this analysis, this brain, it's all up here. I'm not just good looks, Then we have Dipti. How's it going, Dipti? Sunrisers Hyderabad representative during the IPL and representing India today. How's it going?
It's going good. Very excited for the India series, and it's been the longest I have gone without seeing Team India play. So yeah, very excited to see them play again in the blues. And now that it is in the retro color, that would be more interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. The retro kit, might be making a comeback. Obviously, MPL are the new sponsors. I see a couple of you still have the Nike shirts on. Those things might be in museums at some point soon. Now, hold on to them. Obviously, I would say. How do you feel about that, Rav? How do you feel about Nike not being the kit sponsors anymore?
Well, if you look at Nike and you look at kind of the distribution that they've got, you would have thought that it would have been maybe in our interest to stay. But obviously there's different kind of commercial interest there. You look at other sports football teams, Nike seems to dominate them. Some very, very good football teams have moved to Nike in the last 1 year. So I think that, you know, it's certainly a brand that from a sporting and a training perspective does really well. So I was shocked, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, some football team who play in red. Some football team who play in red and play in the Merseyside are now sponsored by Nike. We're not allowed to mention that name on this podcast, obviously. But yeah, no more Nike for Team India. Neha, what do you think?
I was saying that for the kids sponsorship, I think I had opened up the bid. Puma, Adidas, including everybody had applied. But I think in the interest of the time, probably the response was not great. And they had to select on somebody very quickly, and hence.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, yeah, they're supposedly going to be playing in retro-looking kits that are going to look like the 1992 World Cup kits, the dark blue ones, with this kind of color at the top of it, as you can see, with this Gully Live jacket available on gullylive.com. Everybody. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll see what they look like. But you know, forget about how they look like. Let's talk about how they're going to play. Let's start talking about the ODI series, shall we, seeing as that's coming up first. It's going to be starting on the 27th of November, and it's going to consist of 3 ODIs, and all of the ODIs and the T20 series are going to be playing at Sydney and Canberra. Obviously, we know quite a bit about Sydney. Canberra, well, what's Canberra like as a pitch and stuff? Does any of you kind of know very much about how the pitch reacts down there?
Not too sure on Canberra, but I know that it's not the biggest of grounds. And when you look at Australia and you look at the other grounds that they've got, you might see slightly high-scoring games. Sydney, we know, takes spin quite a lot, which may explain a wrist spinner in Kuldeep coming in as well. So I think, obviously, it's been done for COVID reasons. And we know that the pitches there, they're quite true batting surfaces you get in Australia. Good for bounce, as long as you can handle the bounce. White ball doesn't really tend to swing at all anymore out there. So I think India are in for a good shout. Obviously, they've got a bit of a change at the top of the order with Rohit not being there for the white ball leg. So they'll have to look at how they can get those starts underway. And now they've got a brand new wicketkeeper batsman as well. So you'll have to see where KL comes in, for example, because he's going to be really busy across 100 overs.
Yeah, indeed. Well, let's talk about the squad that's actually been selected for the ODIs. So in alphabetical order, I had them down. It's going to be obviously Virat Kohli right at the top is the captain. KL Rahul is the vice captain, and as you mentioned, Rav, he's one of our wicket-keeping selections. Then we have Mayank Agarwal, Jasprit Bumrah, Yuzi Chahal, Shikhar Dhawan, Shubman Gill, Shreyas Iyer, Ravi Jadeja, Manish Pandey, Hardik Pandya, Navdeep Saini, Sanju Samson, Mohammad Shami, Shardul Thakur, and Kuldeep Yadav. Okay, so straight off the bat, let's go over to Neha. Neha, what do you think about that lineup? Are there any names in there that kind of stand out for you, whether you think that they deserve that spot or shouldn't be there, really?
As you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, one striking name in a negative way is Kuldeep Yadav. I personally think probably we don't talk much about Krunal Pandya being included in the squad. But I think if I even kind of go through an entire IPL roundup series, he's had a decent, I'm not saying great, but a decent performance, at least better than Kuldeep Yadav. I think his economy rate is also decent. So I think probably Krunal Pandya instead of, I know we talk about Sky, Ishan Kishan in a different fitment, which is the batsman, etc. But I think probably Krunal could have been a better fit than Kuldeep Yadav for sure. I'm not even sure why he's there. Yes, we have spinners, we have Chahal, we have probably Jadeja supporting Chahal, but in the third spinner, Krunal looks like a decent option to me to kind of try it out. And I think he had a decent haul in Sydney, if I'm not wrong, in 2008 or somewhere. He took like a 5-wicket haul in Sydney. Was it one day T20? I'm not sure, but he had a decent one in Australia as well. So I think he could have been a good choice for us to play in Australia.
Okay, let's
go
over to striking. Yeah, let's go over to Ahan and then we'll go over to Dipti.
No, I mean, I don't agree with that at all. Kuldeep Yadav is his T20 record is poor. He's not in the T20 squad, fair enough. His ODI record is pretty good. Last year in the World Cup, he was brilliant. I still remember that ball he bowled to, I think, Babar Azam, was it, against Pakistan, which absolutely ripped through his defenses. So, I mean, I understand him not being in the T20 squad because I feel like Kuldeep is the kind of guy in a format where you're naturally going to get attacked. He's not good enough to hold his own. But I think he is good enough, but temperamentally, he's probably not as good as maybe Yuzi Chahal, who's very good temperamentally. But I think in 50 overs, when you need wicket takers in the middle overs, Krunal Pandya is not a wicket taker as a bowler. He's more of a container in terms of holding the runs from one end. And I think Krunal Pandya, if he ever makes it to the ODI team, Krunal Pandya's competition is a direct competition with Jadeja, because they're basically the same kind of players, left arm spin who can bat at 7 or 8. So I think that's more his competition. Kuldeep Yadav is a purebred spinner. I honestly, I love Kuldeep, and I think his 50 over stats, if you look at them, are brilliant. He's got 104 wickets in 60 ODIs, which is not at it's brilliant bowling. I think him and Chahal I like them as a combination, but seeing the makeup of the side we picked, I don't see both of them playing. It's going to be a straight toss-up between one of them playing. Jadeja has to play just purely because Hardik Pandya can't bowl. So he's going to be playing at 6, which means Jadeja has to play for us to have some sort of semblance of a batting tail. Otherwise, there's no batting past 6 or 7.
Okay, just to play devil's advocate for a minute, though, when you talk about Kuldeep Yadav, Ahan, obviously you mentioned that ball to Babar Azam in the World Cup. Has that ball to Babar Azam papered over his cracks a little bit in that World Cup, in that maybe he didn't really have that good of a World Cup?
I mean, I don't think, firstly, he didn't play all the games in the World Cup. He played, I think, 7 games and he got 6 wickets, which is not the best returns. But I think people judge Kuldeep Yadav a lot on his T20 IPL form, actually more than T20 IPL form, because with Kolkata there's so much talk about him, and when you're an Indian player in the IPL, people expect so much of you. And maybe, yeah, fair enough, he's not delivered over there. I remember last year in one of the matches he actually broke down like in the middle of the game. He started crying,
yeah.
which was like quite disheartening to see. And he's not been in the greatest T20 form, but I think that's the problem here. People are judging him on his T20 form for formats which is not T20. It's very different. And I also think Kuldeep Yadav is not someone who can bowl alone. He can't be the strike force. And given that Narayan has not been his best in the last 2 seasons, it doesn't help him. It's when he bowls in tandem with like Yuzvendra Chahal, then Chahal can build pressure on one side, which means they have to attack Kuldeep. And then when you're trying to attack Kuldeep in a 50-over game with his variation and his spin and all, then I think he becomes a different proposition, because then he can spin it past you. He can slow it down. I think he's got all the tricks. He just needs to be mentally helped along a little bit, I think.
I think also the fact that he's probably just not in form. He may be a good bowler. Yes, every player probably goes through a rough patch and etc. But because he's not in form, I think it'll be fair to give somebody else an opportunity who is probably in a decent form. I'm not saying he's a bad bowler or whatever. It's just that he's not in form currently.
But I think it's also it's a trade-off, right? If you drop someone, you can shatter his confidence more than if you keep him and back him to the hill. Because now if he has one great performance, he'll be back in like the mindset. So you back him.
Dipti, what do you think?
Starting off, Kuldeep is a kind of player who does well in pairs. Actually, all my points are kind of covered by Ahan, but I'll say it anyway. So I think the problem in KKR unit is they didn't find someone else who could match him or understand him. But we all know about how Chahal and Kuldeep's partnership is, and Chahal kind of helps Kuldeep. So that is one aspect we have to look into. And the other thing is IPL is a T20 format, and Kuldeep is not in the T20 squad. So in the ODI squad, he has done kind of okay-ish, and there's a good record between Chahal and Kuldeep. So that is why I guess he's in the squad of ODI squad and not in the T20 squad.
Yeah, indeed. Kuldeep Yadav, a little bit of a question mark next to his name. We'll have to obviously see how he fares. Rav, another name that appears in the bowling for the ODI series is India's number 10, Shardul Thakur. Is in the team. So, I mean, what do you think about that selection? Obviously, he's kind of a player that's been in and out of the team for a while, but is he worthy enough to get on this plane to Australia to play in 50 overs?
No. So if you look at what happened a few years ago, so Shardul obviously had quite a serious injury over a year ago that required a lot of rehab. He's since come back, and to be fair, has actually performed quite well in domestic, even in IPL. He hit the right length. But I think the thing is that India have quite a lot of strength and depth in pace bowling, specifically across all formats. And I think if you were to look at somebody, maybe even like a Deepak Chahar, for example, somebody who I think swings the ball more, maintains a little bit more control. They're both quite hittable at the death, but I was quite surprised to see him in there. I think obviously Navdeep Saini with the pace element in Australia may be the way to go, because lateral movement in Australia is quite hard to get, and that's Shardul's game. So I think that could be something. It looks like maybe he's a squad filler rather than a certain starter. Just to quickly come back on Kuldeep there, my view on Kuldeep is I think the kid is a transformational talent. I think to have a young Chinaman bowler who had the first few years of international cricket that he did was absolutely outstanding. I think he's clearly low on confidence. But if you look at, Australia, a lot of left-handers, you can see maybe why they've picked him as well, to take the ball away from the left-hander. So I definitely think just getting him back in the fold could help his confidence quite a bit, because the kid's got so much talent. I actually think he's significantly more talented than Chahal. It's just that obviously Chahal, he doesn't have the same variation. But as the guys have said, he's really resilient. He's older, and therefore I think we need to stick with Kuldeep because he's a long-term investment.
Yep, fair enough. Well, yeah, Kuldeep Yadav. We'll see how he does. What do the rest of you guys think about the fact that Shardul Thakur has made it back in the squad? As Rav said, obviously, somebody like Deepak Chahar is in the T20 team, hasn't been selected for the 50 overs, but I'm not sure what Shardul Thakur has actually done as of late to merit getting back into the 50 overs team. Neha, what do you think?
I think, as Rav said, he's more of a squad filling rather than. I don't think India team is really looking him to play. We have Bumrah, we have Shami, we have Navdeep, and with these three on board, his fitment looks a little difficult, unless God forbid somebody gets injured and etc. Just as a filler. Otherwise, frankly, I don't see him in the playing 11 or in any of the T20 or ODI if he's selected for both. Yeah.
Well, personally speaking, I think that he should play in the ODIs, because I think Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Shami should be wrapped in bubble wrap and left inside the hotel until the test series, because God forbid anything happens to them before that. Ahan.
Sorry, I think exactly what you're saying, but I think because they put the ODI series first, I think those two will definitely play the ODI series, as in Shami, Bumrah and Saini will start, and Thakur is there for a squad filler. Because if you look at the T20s, now instead of so over there we have 3 plus Shardul. Now in the T20s we've got Bumrah, Shami, Saini, Chahar and Natarajan. So they can afford to rest 2 of those. Like they get Bumrah for Natarajan. It's never a like for like, but at least Natarajan is covering Bumrah's like death overs, which is what we need. So I think because the T20 is the one in the middle, I think they're going to look at the T20s to rest their big guns for the tests. That's why they've not got that much squad depth in terms of fast bowling in their ODI squad, and instead they've got it in their T20 squad.
Yeah, Dipti, what do you think?
I think the ODI squad, ODI is like the first series that we are going into. So I would want like all the players who are in, good form to play, because it will be good for the team's mental morale, and yeah, it'll be good to see those players play well and take on from there. And then just like Ahan said, they can try to rest in the key players in the T20 series and bring in Natarajan. As a SRH fan, again, I'm not supposed to say that, but I would love to see that guy play, get his debut this season and do wonders for India as well. But yeah, that is what.
Yeah, we certainly hope so.
Also,
okay, so
not to take anything away from Bumrah at all, he's the best dead bowler we have. But I think in the last international series that India played, which was against New Zealand, I think he was wicketless. He was dwindling in his form. But of course, he's the best we have. The players go in and out of form. But I think in the IPL, he was back again with a bang and etc. So no doubts on his performance. But his last international series was not that great.
Yeah, of course. And in the New Zealand series, Jasprit Bumrah got taken to the cleaners by a certain upcoming batsman called Kane Williamson, who I think Dipti and Neha are very big fans of.
He just come out of injury though, also you have to remember that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah.
Well, yes. I mean, the last thing I kind of want to ask you guys about the ODIs really is the openers, because obviously we don't have Rohit Sharma playing in the white ball series. He's going to be coming back for the test series, but we've got KL Rahul, Mayank Agarwal and Shikhar Dhawan in the ODIs. Maybe a couple of other of the guys could actually come up and open, possibly. Who knows? Virat Kohli, maybe. Who knows? Ahan, who would you prefer to open out of this ODI series?
I don't think India looks at KL Rahul as an ODI opener anymore. He's at number 5 as a wicketkeeper batsman, and that's his role in the team now, because we've lacked finishers for a while now, since Dhoni has not been since Dhoni 2018 mostly. We've kind of lacked the finishing power, Dhoni, Jadhav, but they weren't really giving it. So I think they found. I mean, since you were talking about the New Zealand series, that series and the one before that when Australia came to India. We absolutely, I mean, I remember KL Rahul hit this innings of 87 or 50 balls or something, and it was absolutely insane. Like, his hitting in that innings was crazy. So I think they see him as 5. So for me, actually, Shikhar Dhawan and Mayank Agarwal have to start, because Mayank has had a brilliant IPL as well. Mayank has been scoring runs in all formats. But again, I don't want Mayank getting injured or something before the test series, because we need him there. So I think if we are 2-0 up, then I could, or I could see them playing Sanju Samson maybe, or even a Shubman Gill, because Sanju Samson is an opener. He's opened in T20s and other formats, but Gill also opens. So if they want to give someone a rest, then they have the options. I actually, honestly, when I look at the squad, I don't know who the third opener is here. Who has been picked as the third opener? Is it Gill or is it Samson? I think it's Gill, because Gill is probably the more accomplished top order batsman, and Samson has been picked as a reserve wicket keeper. But yeah, I think Shikhar and Mayank are the obvious options if you're starting.
So I hate to pick on you again, Ahan, but obviously, like I said, we didn't talk about the final much. I've just got to ask you, when we're talking about Shikhar Dhawan, that shot he played in the final. Again, I don't know why I'm asking you about this. It's got nothing to do with any of it. But if he'd have done that in an India shirt, honestly, I would be tearing my hair out.
I don't blame him though. That shot has got him. If you've seen every innings, that is the first shot he plays against every spinner to get going. Like that, he sweeps them across the line, and usually it goes for 6. It was probably the only time in the tournament where that shot failed. Thank God he didn't get out hitting a reverse sweep. Then I would have agreed with you. But that's probably the only time that shot has failed for him in the tournament. Therefore, I think, there's really there's no other options. But let's see.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. Rav, who are you having opening?
Well, it's a really interesting debate, and I agree with Ahan that Shubman Gill is definitely the heir apparent to the opening slot. He opens in Ranji Trophy. He's got stacks of runs, averaging 70, and obviously in white ball form is good as well. The only thing I would caution against, just in terms of this conversation, is just that looking at IPL form for a marker of international performance is sometimes a little bit tricky. And KL's a great example of that, because KL's been used at the top of the order, he's been floated everywhere, and I think he's really struggled. So I agree that, with him being a wicket-keeper batsman, for him to open is a huge ask, and I think that the team would probably look away from that in order to kind of safeguard what he's doing with the gloves. But KL, this is a really big series, a really big set of series for KL as a player, because if you look at where his game has gone in the IPL, and then you look at him in international, it looks like 2 different players. So I think what he's got to do is really close the gaps, perform for India, close innings off well with Hardik, which I think he will. Like I say, I'm a proud Punjabi, so Shubman Gill is definitely one that we've got our eyes on. We think that he's going to be playing for India for many years to come. So, who's to say that maybe in a dead rubber, you could change it up and bring it up. Shikhar's not the future. He's had a great IPL, really good player, but India obviously need to look forwards.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Neha, openers, what do you think?
I think all of us had initially in one of the IPL podcasts agreed that Dhawan shouldn't open. But now I'm reversing that thing, because we don't have Rohit anymore in the T20 and the ODI squad. So Shikhar Dhawan definitely is one of those experienced players that we should have as opener. Lot will lie on him, with Rohit not being around to give that start to the innings in terms of experience as well. He's played a lot with Australia, and he has a decent record against Australia. Going with the number 2 opener, I think it's tricky. As much as I would like KL Rahul to come down, as Ahan and Rav probably said, and not open, I have a feeling they're going to go with KL Rahul and let him open. He has had a great IPL series, barring the strike rate and etc. And he's done a decent job there, stayed till quite long in the innings and etc. I think it's going to be KL Rahul and Dhawan, considering all of these factors.
Fair enough. Yeah. Dipti, what do you think?
I think it will be Shikhar and Mayank only because 100 overs is too much for anyone to ask, whatever the fitness may be. So asking him to come in and bat in the opening would be very harsh on him. And considering the fact that he's like the number one or the first choice wicket keeper, we can't risk anything to happen to him. And also Wriddhiman Saha, like if you consider test also, Wriddhiman Saha is still not fit. So they would be relying on KL Rahul a lot. So they wouldn't want to, affect his health or his fitness levels. And hence, I think KL will bat at 4 or 5. And there is another thing that Ahan mentioned. I think they can go with 3 spinners. Three of them, Jaddu, Kuldeep and Chahal. I think they can go for that. I wish Hardik could bowl because that would kind of bring in extra batsmen for us, like Manish and Shreyas both could play. But now I think one of them can play now. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, yeah. Ahan, did you want to come back?
Yeah, I just had a point. I mean, actually, because of what the last statement Deepthi made, it links into both of their points. But as much as I'd love KL Rahul to open, I don't think he can open because if you look at the way that squad is structured, we don't have the finishing power apart from Hardik. They've decided to leave out a certain someone who I won't mention because otherwise the podcast will become too much about him. But maybe we'll have a conversation about that at the end when we discuss both teams. Sure. But because they've left him out, their finishing is Hardik Pandya, KL Rahul in the ODIs, and Manish Pandey if you play him. And I don't really see Manish Pandey as a finisher. He's not a finisher. He's not done it enough. He's a better batsman when he gets time to build innings and finish. And like at 5, there could be a stage where you come in at 200 for 3 or 210 for 3 in 40 overs or 42 overs. And then I'd rather have KL Rahul walking in at 200 for 3 than Manish Pandey walking in at 200 for 3. So I think they've just got more quality options at the top. Like I think Mayank as an opener gives you more than Pandey gives you at 5. And also when it comes to the 3 spinners thing that Deepthi said, I'm not sure about that because that means unless you're the thing is if you play 3 spinners, that means you have to probably going to leave out Navdeep Saini, right? Because you're going to play 2 quicks and 3 seamers, which is really high risk because that means Shami because we're only going to play 5 bowlers, right? With Pandya batting at 6, I don't see a 6th bowling option in this team unless Shreyas Iyer decides to bowl his leg spin suddenly in the middle of a game. But I think with the squad, if to go in a 5 bowler game with 2 batsmen, 2 fast bowlers and 3 spinners is asking a lot because they'll have to bowl in the power play and then they'll have to close it out at the death as well, which becomes really tough for only 2 bowlers. That's why I think Kohli likes his seamers. So I think he's going to keep a third. I think the third seamer here is an RCB boy as well. So I think he'll definitely play, and he'll play like he'll handle the middle overs, and Bumrah and Shami will handle the more difficult overs.
I actually somehow always think that maybe most of you will not agree, but Jadeja also has a finisher. Like we're talking about Manish Pandey or somebody else, but Jadeja can probably also do that role of a finisher.
Yeah, but I think Jadeja needs to bat at 7 too. Otherwise, our batting after 6 just falls off a cliff.
Yeah,
so
it's
Jadeja bats
Agreed.
at 7. We need someone at 5, and I think KL Rahul is better than Manish Pandey at 5.
Okay, look, this is quite a controversial thing to ask you guys, perhaps. Obviously, Rav, you remember we asked this question after the Champions Trophy final in 2017. But, I mean, is it now coming to the time where we have to look beyond Jadeja now as like a regular in this team?
Was that to me?
Anyone who wants to answer.
I still think he's got a lot to offer as a cricketer. I think that he sets an example in the field. I think we saw in the World Cup, he got India back into the game against England with that great catch of Roy. I think also the problem with Jadeja the last few years was that most teams were looking at leg spin, and especially double leg spin across formats, because they thought that finger spin, you look at the not the Champions Trophy, the 2016 T20, when we were the only side that picked finger spinners and everybody else went with wristies, and we got absolutely hammered in that semi. So I think that kind of went against him a bit, when actually he didn't do particularly much wrong compared to, say, an Ashwin, who maybe didn't have the patience to stick with this kind of format and not try and bowl a different ball every delivery. So I think Jadeja's still got a lot to offer. I also think he takes his batting a lot more seriously in the last 2 years than maybe before. We've seen that across formats. We've seen Test 50s, 100 in at home. So I think actually, as the guys have correctly said, if he can come in at 7, lengthen that tail, and also provide amazing fielding and 8 to 10 overs of really tight, not darts, but tight spin, then I think he serves India well. He has done for a few years now.
Yep. Ahan, go for it.
I think in T20s, actually, I'd play Jadeja as a batting all-rounder rather than a bowling all-rounder. I'd have him somewhere at 6 because, as Neha was saying, his finishing, like this season, I was really impressed with the way he finished innings. I think his batting at the death was incredible, especially that one game he played against Kolkata where he absolutely belted, and he didn't belt like average bowlers. He was hitting Lockie Ferguson and like those kind of bowlers out of the ground. So, I mean, that's really something to see. But in ODIs, I don't think. See, if Pandya starts bowling again, then I can see the merit because I can see him playing him and Pandya sharing 10 overs between them. But I don't think you can. I mean, he's not a bowler you want bowling 10 overs in an ODI. He's not going to get you too many wickets like in an ODI setting. He'll get you in tests in India. He's brilliant. He'll get you tests and all that. T20s also he'll get you a couple because people are trying to attack. He's the kind of player that you would look to attack. So he'll get you a lot of caught on the boundaries. But in ODI cricket, I'm not sure he's a wicket taker compared to someone, let's say, like a Kuldeep. So I ideally, as an Indian fan, I don't want him to play. But the thing is, looking at the options we have in the country, and the fact that we either have batsmen who don't bowl or bowlers who don't bat, there is nothing in between. So Jadeja has therefore by default become an integral part of the balance of this team and the way it structures up, because if we don't have Jadeja, there is really no one. Like we don't have, like, even if you compare it to the team we're playing Australia, they've got Pat Cummins, who is a bowler, but he can bat decently. Stark can bat pretty well. And like then they got, as batting all-rounder, they've got Stoinis, they've got Maxwell. So they can play all these people and then they have so many options, but their batting also not compromised. We don't have that luxury anymore. I mean, we used to have it when the good old 2011 team, when we had all those legends who could bowl, but yeah.
I think if you look at where we were in the last World Cup and you look at the team that won it and the team that had the game plan, England, to win that World Cup, they bat all the way down to 10. You know, they had Liam Plunkett batting 9, 10, 11. So I don't think that model of cricket is particularly going anywhere. And I think that we need to have that strength in depth in batting. And that's really where, like Hans just said, Jadeja's becomes more of a merit then, because really Chahal and Kuldeep, Shami, Bumrah, they're not going to add any runs for you, and they're going to be 6 out, all out. And I think that's the big issue for India. They've got to solve that before the next World Cup, because strength in depth in batting is absolutely crucial. I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yes,
I
indeed.
think that's why they have to develop someone like, they have to develop like a Nagar Koti or a Mavi and pretty quickly, because they can bat. So they really need to be developed into people who can bat and still keep their level at 140, because those are the kind of players we're really missing in India. Like even in the old Bhajis, they could all hit the ball. They were not like as bad bats. We have now, right now, we have 4 number 11s and Jadeja.
Yeah, Neha, did you want to come back?
Yeah, I mean, similar topic on Jadeja. I think he's a very valuable player for us. Be it batting, be it bowling, be it fielding. He's just exceptional on the field. Great fitness levels. I think he needs to maintain his fitness levels, which he's already doing, and be in great form. And I have always seen him or viewed him as a batting all-rounder. Yes, he's a spinner and etc. and all of that. But I think he always adds on to the batting power as well. And especially when I look at Australia's squad, I mean, right up till Alex Carey or say Pat Cummins or Zampa, I think everybody can bat in when it comes to Australia batting lineup, even if they want to chase. And I'm pretty confident that even if bowlers come in the last 5 overs, they can easily chase because everything bats up there. So in comparison, or for likewise comparison, we need to have people like Hardik and Jadeja, as Rav said. Somebody like a Chahal or Bumrah probably can't bat as much. So having Jadeja and Hardik, probably Jadeja at the fag end of the overs, would really help to create that balance and not exactly replicate the Australian squad, but somebody good to have bat at the end. I think Australian, everybody can literally bat is what I feel. I've seen over the years, like right from starting till the end, everybody can bat there. So it will be good to have somebody like Jadeja who can fill in that.
Yeah, Dipti, did you want to come back with anything?
Yeah. See, adding on what Raf said, while if you take our ballers and place them in different teams like we do in IPL, all of them mostly will play at 10 or 11. That is not good thing. And the major problem with India is we don't produce good seeming all-rounders. So, someone like Hardik did that for a while, but then he's medium. But we want someone who's fast and who hits the ball very out of the ground. So I think we have to look for youngsters who are good in this aspect.
Yeah, so what we could do is offer Ben Stokes Indian citizenship, and there we go, problem solved. Right, let's move on to the T20 team, shall we? Because obviously we haven't really got onto that yet. So this is the T20 series, obviously starting from December the 4th, once again playing at Sydney and Canberra, 3 matches within that. And this is the T20 squad. So Virat Kohli, obviously captain, KL Rahul, vice-captain, wicketkeeper, Mayank Agarwal, Jasprit Bumrah, Yuzi Chahal, Deepak Chahar, Shikhar Dhawan, Shreyas Iyer, Ravi Jadeja, T. Natarajan, Manish Pandey, Hardik Pandya, Navdeep Saini, Sanju Samson, Mohammad Shami, and Washington Sundar. So, Rav, any names for you particularly that stand out from that T20?
Yeah, I personally, Samson is an interesting case because Samson had a good IPL. However, 2 of Samson's big scores came at Sharjah, which is a very, very small ground. And if it was me, I probably would have gone for maybe a Nishan Kishan or somebody like that because he gives you left hand, right hand as well. I know that's not a hugely popular choice with some people. Obviously, Surya Kumar Yadav's 30, but then again, Shreyas Iyer probably could bat at 4 for the foreseeable for India across formats. So I think they're trying to future-proof the selection and probably just bed Iyer in. I hope so. I also like, obviously, the look of the likes of Natarajan. I think that, great bowler, more Yorkers than anybody else by far in the IPL this year. So definitely, as has previously been mentioned, hopefully he can take the pressure off, just breathe a little bit as well. And I think India as a T20 side, they've really got to look at balance and just making sure that, we've got a solid 5, 6, 7 bowling options in case a guy gets taken down on a specific day. But also, as has been said with the ODI selection, the strength in depth is absolutely critical. And I think missing the best ever IPL player in Rohit Sharma is only going to exacerbate that because obviously he bats long, he bats deep, and he can accelerate really, really fast towards the end. So India just need to change the model a little bit and just look at how they get more batting resources further down the order.
Okay, right. Shall we just get straight into it then? I think obviously you've mentioned the name that's kind of been on everybody's hearts and minds throughout this T20 selection. Surya Kumar Yadav. So, Rav, you mentioned obviously he didn't get selected for this, but your best mate, Ravi Shastri, tweeted during the IPL. He tweeted for Surya Kumar Yadav to be patient. How patient does this guy need to be, Rav? Because, I mean, he's already 30 years old and nobody can ever get into the India team and hit the ground running from that point. He does need time in the squad. So how patient does he need to be?
Well, I think he's proven, my personal view is he's proven his eligibility for selection. And I think that if you look at the job that Mahela asked him to do for Mumbai Indians, which was to be the pivot where all the other batting revolved around it, you go back and look at these podcasts in the last 12 months, and that's exactly what India have been after. So it's not to say, I think the issue is obviously they probably maybe see Shreyas as that long-term potential in that position, knowing he can give India 10 plus years. So I do see what the view is on Surya Kumar Yadav, but there also has to be accountability so that when you succeed and you have an outstanding performance or set of performances, you do have to be near that selection because otherwise the selection isn't based on the performances. And I think that's a slippery slope. So my personal view is he should have been in the squad. But, there's a lot of T20 coming up in the next 2 years. We've got 2 international tournaments. So the first one will be in India. And I'm surprised that they've not looked at him knowing that that's change in T20s from Australia to India means that the changing conditions mean we need different players. So I hope India take a look at him pretty soon because he's red hot.
Yeah, so Ahan, let's talk a little bit about Surya Kumar Yadav. Obviously, he was one of the players that we talked about the most during the IPL podcast. Didn't get selected for this tour. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I agree with a lot of what Rav said, but I think what's actually gone against Surya Kumar Yadav in this season, I mean, in this squad selection, is that Hardik Pandya is not bowling. I know it sounds a bit like how are they in competition, but I think in an ideal world, we'd have Hardik Pandya at 6 bowling, which then gives you Hardik Pandya, Jadeja, Sundar, whoever you want to play, and then so on after that. But with Hardik Pandya not bowling, he has to bat at 5 because you cannot go into a T20 with 5 bowling options. I mean, that's just asking for disaster. So if Hardik Pandya has to bat at 5, Jadeja has to bat at 6, and then you play maybe Sundar at 7, and then you can build a squad from there. That basically leaves you with your 1, 2, 3 are set, and 4 is probably going to be Shreyas Iyer. Whereas I think actually Surya Kumar Yadav has the game. He showed it this year that he can bat at 5 and finish an innings. So he batted a strike rate of 150. And what India has been missing, with irrespective of the format, whatever it is, they have been missing a finisher, a proper finisher. Like you've got Hardik, we've got Rishabh Pant, who is not in the squad, but apart from that, we don't really have people who can strike from the get-go. And the fact that Surya Kumar Yadav has been doing that, I think, is what his role should be for India. I don't think he should compete with Shreyas. I think him and Shreyas should play together if they're not looking at Rishabh Pant seriously. And then I think actually when we talk about Rohit, I think we'll miss Rohit less in T20s than we'll miss in ODIs because it's only 20 overs. And a lot of these people can, I think Rahul is a better T20 player according to me than Rohit is anyway. And he's going to be opening. And then there's not much in terms of between like Shikhar, Rohit, and even maybe Mayank as T20 opening batsmen. I think probably Mayank probably gives you higher consistency, but when Rohit gets in, Rohit gets bigger scores. So it's a bit of a trade-off. But I think we'll miss him more in the ODIs where, it's 50 overs of high quality bowling of the opposition. So I think that's why we'll miss him more.
Yeah, Deepthi, the Sunrisers' very own Manish Pandey has made it into this T20 team. No Surya Kumar Yadav, though. Do you think that was the right decision?
I think selection into India squad is not only based on IPL, but based on the first class and Ranji performance. And I think Manish does better there. And speaking of Surya Kumar Yadav, this is one point that Ahan mentioned in one of the podcasts earlier, that he plays at number 3 for MI, and for India, Kohli plays number 3. That is where he has to, the competition for him is Kohli. This is Ahan's point. Yeah. And then another thing would be, the fact that you mentioned, right? The fact that he is 30. So it would be better to invest in someone younger than him and who is equally as talented as him, as Rav also said, for a longer, tenure. So I think those are the reasons why he isn't in part of the squad. And coming to Manish Pandey, I still think there's a tough fight between him or Shreyas getting into the squad, and only one of them will be playing. And though Manish is from SRH, I would want Shreyas in my team. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, Neha, what do you think?
I think everybody has covered all the points related to Sky, and as we said, Ravi Shastri tweeted that be patient and etc. I think in terms of T20, there's a very cutthroat competition. Like everybody is out there to get on the squad. We have too many good young quality players. Yes, Sky is not, but everybody else. But I think one poor performance from any of the T20 players, and I think Sky gets in his place in the next probably. The way Ravi Shastri tweeted, or the way we know that T20 is really cutthroat, like at every position we have somebody or the other. I think one wrong performance from any player in this particular T20, he reserves a spot in the next, is what I believe.
Fair enough. I mean, if we just stick with you for a minute, Neha, obviously Sanju Samson is in this team. I think obviously in the back of our minds as well, you've got to consider, the COVID bubble and all of that, and the amount of players that you can actually take with you and keep with you and all of that type of madness. Sanju Samson is in this team for the T20s. No Rishabh Pant or Ishan Kishan in that spot. What do you think about that?
See, I think Pant shouldn't have been. Not having Pant is absolutely okay. I think his fitness levels have gone bizarre. where everybody is talking about it. Yes, we understand there's lockdown and etc. But you are an athlete. You need to maintain your fitness levels. Yes, he's young, and it's not right to compare him with Dhoni. He has still a lot to learn. He is his own player, and Dhoni is his own player. But I'm not sure if actually, people or anybody is monitoring as to what is his diet, what is his fitness levels, how is he coping up, and etc. I'm not sure if there is an overlook on that part or guidance on that part for players like Rishabh or Prithvi for that matter as well, where as far as fitness is concerned. And I think Pant has been playing ball just at one place. I think he needs a lot of grooming and working yet. So not having him, I am personally okay with it. But yes, Ishan Kishan for sure. I would have probably said, let's pick up Ishan Kishan and not Sanju Samson. Sanju Samson he's got chances earlier, and I think he's had okayish international career. And now looking at the IPL, now that people are basing IPL as they are Ranji and a mix of IPL as their base for picking up players, Ishan would have been probably a good pick to try it out.
Yeah, Ahan, Rishabh Pant. Obviously, there was a mention of Prithvi Shaw in there as well. I'm not even going to go there on this podcast. Obviously, they're both in the Test squad, but neither of them appearing in the white ball squad. What's your feelings about that, and also the lack of Ishan Kishan in this team?
See, Prithvi Shaw is your point to make. I don't make points on Prithvi Shaw. That's for you. But when we're talking about Rishabh Pant, okay, it's very simple, right? Okay, maybe he's become his fitness has gone slightly awry, but he's never been the most fit person.
He was never particularly skinny to begin with.
Now when you compare them to Ishan Kishan has had one good IPL season, and that was this year, right? His IPLs before this have been very mediocre. His record is very average. Rishabh Pant had 2 back-to-back seasons where he was absolutely incredible. He won 4 or 5 games off his own bat. He scored 650 2 seasons ago, and then last season he scored 480. And I remember he took Bumrah apart in one game. He literally ripped him apart. And it's Bumrah. It's not some any random random bowler in the IPL. So here's my problem with the Pant non-selection. Our top 5 could very possibly in a T20 top 5 be Rahul, Rohit, Kohli, Iyer, and Pandey at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I mean, hopefully this is not. But that, if you compare that to a West Indies who got Pooran in their top 5, they got Russell. Compare that to Australia even who got a Maxwell, and they've got Warner and Finch Warner when he's plays in Australia, he plays with a free mind.
England as well. The England team have absolute
Roy,
power
Stokes,
hitters. Yeah.
Butler. I mean, just compare this. We have 5 people who basically play the same game. They play the same style of play, except Rahul, if he's playing with a free mind, he's more of a T20 batsman. But the other 5 play the same way. We have nothing different. That's why we are a great team when it comes to 160, 170, on a stretch 180. If Kohli plays innings like he did in one of the T20 World Cups against Australia. But otherwise, we are a very average T20 side. You need in T20, you need a spark. We've got Pandya, but you cannot have your whole T20 squad built around one hitter. There needs to be a second hitter. And I think that's the issue I have with Pant not being selected. Pant as a player, what he provides to the team is something that India does not have. And I have this issue with Manish Pandey actually in both formats. I don't understand why he's been selected. He bats at 3, at a push 4. He's not a batsman that can finish games at 5 and below. So I don't see why he's being played at 5.
Well, this is my question: is that could you not have easily swapped him out for Surya Kumar Yadav just to give him a chance in this team?
Yeah, honestly, instead of Manish Pandey, I would have taken Surya Kumar Yadav, Rishabh Pant, Ishan Kishan. Even Ishan Kishan, I would have actually taken ahead of Manish Pandey because Ishan Kishan can bat as a finisher. He's shown that he can bat as a finisher. This is in terms of roles, not what they're not. I think India picks their teams a lot based on their reputation and the names rather than actually what the roles they're looking for is, because at 5 or at 6, as a finisher, Ishan Kishan, Rishabh Pant and Surya Kumar Yadav have all 3 performed better as finishers for their teams. And I agree Rishabh Pant had an average IPL, but and I agree his fitness is off. But firstly, look, 7 weeks in, I know it was the last game, but 7 weeks in, once he'd been in a fitness, when he's worked on his fitness for 7-8 weeks in the IPL, we all saw his innings in the last match, in the final. It was a pretty good innings. And that was a 50 of 30 balls without any risks. There was no risk in that 50 until he got to 50 and played a really stupid shot. But that's what I'm trying to say. I think he provides something completely different to this team, which we're missing. And we have six, like even Sanju Samson bats in a very similar way. So you're not really giving yourself much versatility or options in your top 5 and 6.
Go on, right?
I also personally somewhere feel that, again, sorry bringing Prithvi Shaw here, but Prithvi Shaw and Rishabh, maybe the statement is too harsh and it's easy for me to sit here and say, but I think they lack a bit of a discipline when it comes to probably their fitness or taking their game seriously. They are young. They can do really great for Indian side is what I personally feel. I'm not sure it's the lack of guidance, it's the lack of grooming they need. But as Ahan said, we need players like Pant in Team India. Probably if they are fit and if they play well, they probably need to be groomed in a better way.
Yeah, go ahead, Rav.
First of all, I'm going to put a disclaimer out there about Rishabh Pant. So I'm a massive Rishabh Pant fan, and I'm not going to approach it from an IPL lens at all. So I've watched Rishabh Pant a lot. I've watched him make triple hundreds in Ranji. I've seen the kid get test hundreds in England, Australia, everything. And I think one thing needs to be said. Rishabh Pant has all the talent in the world, and Rishabh Pant is that explosive finisher. However, he has not yet figured out the rhythm of white ball cricket internationally. And when I say that, what I mean we're looking at consistent modes of dismissal in the same areas. His strengths have slightly become a weakness. These leg side hoiks that, the guy's got such a strong leg side game. He's better than that. I don't feel he's fully developed his offside game. I'm not really going to talk about fitness because I feel that long term that will sort itself out in any team that's a Virat Kohli team. However, when you look at Pant, he's not really doing himself any favours because he's not actually rectifying the areas of his game that have been identified as being weak. And really, it's all about knowing when to go in one-day cricket. When do you up that ante? And when I saw it in international games where we've just lost a wicket and Pant plays a massive shot first ball, for me it's mental, and I don't think it's anything to do with competency because I think the kid's got all the shots. But I think it's about when he decides, and a lot of this is around mentoring, good coaching. I mean, I don't know what Ravi Shastri's doing, but if we want to get the best out of players like this, then he's the lead coach. So what's he earning his 8 crores for? I think what we need to do is put our arms around a kid like this. And, if we're going to get him in 2023, and I often think that he's the kid who could win India the World Cup in India in a few years' time, we don't have very long. It's 2021 next year. It's 2 years. We've got to sort this out if we're going to get the best out of him.
Well, I mean, just to play devil's advocate for a minute there, Rav, and, you're talking about, obviously, he has these issues which he needs to iron out, but how's he going to iron it out when he's not even being selected in the team? I mean, he kind of needs to play in cricket for India in foreign conditions in order to iron that out.
I totally take that point. And I think, you'll know that we've had discussions even in the test arena about Saha versus Pant. In tests, I personally think Pant has the selection. I don't think he should be dropped because in tests, he had a great tour of Australia. He broke a wicket-keeping record. He's actually done really well. But I think the issue is that his white ball kind of exploits and lack of consistency mean that it kind of tars the brush for Pant in everything. And I think people think, actually, this kid doesn't have it. When actually, if you look at, say, a Virender Sehwag, who everyone thought his game was geared towards one-day cricket, he averaged 31. And then in Test cricket, he averaged just under 50. We're seeing a similar thing with Pant, where when you give him the time in a Test match, you look at Sydney, we got a great 150 because he knew what he had to do. I think when there's a lack of vision in the team about, Pant came in at 4 in the World Cup when he wasn't even in the original squad. How you're going to confuse a kid by not giving him the ways to develop if you don't have the blueprint in strategy of what you're going to do for him. And that's not on Pant. That's on Virat Kohli. That's on the team management. And I don't think they've treated him particularly well. And that's why you see these performances.
Okay, right. You've mentioned a name there now who I was thinking, should we talk about this or should we not talk about this just there? But you know what? This is the Bharat Army podcast and we ask the hard questions on this show. So obviously, Rohit Sharma has not been selected for the ODI or the T20 team because obviously of injury, and he's going to be back for the Test series, we hope. Everybody take a deep breath for a minute. All right, let's ask the question, right? I'm talking only about T20 for the sake of this argument. Is it now time? Has the time come where we actually really need to have this discussion and say, is it time for Rohit Sharma to take the reins of the T20 team and for Virat Kohli to just be our number 3 batsman? Ahan,
Before that,
go first.
can I just finish up on the punt thing? I just wanted to make one last point.
Okay, go on quickly.
So basically, I completely agree with Rav that it's mismanagement, because you can't have him walking out at 4 in a World Cup semi-final when he's batted 5, 6, 4. You can't keep changing the guy around at that young age. He needs to be given a role. And I think about the test point is because you get more value for your shots when the field is in, because there's not that many people out. So he's getting that. But actually what I wanted to say is the biggest and best comparison for me for punt is Maxwell with Australia. Maxwell can do some ludicrous things at times. He plays absolutely ridiculous shots and gets out. And he gets out like looking ugly when he gets out, like the shots he hits. But Australia stick with him because they know every 5 games he'll give you 1 game where he'll win you the game alone. He doesn't need anyone with him to do that. And that's what India need. That's the kind of faith India need to show in punt. That when you give him those run of games, you know he has the ability like Maxwell does to win you a game every 5. And that's the kind of thought process that needs to be applied to punt in Indian cricket that Australia applied to Maxwell. And
the captaincy issue in T20, where do you stand?
About that, I see the merit in it. I see the merit in the argument in Rohit Sharma's ability to lead a team. But honestly, I'm going to tell you one thing. I think Rohit Sharma's ability to lead a team is slightly overhyped, and it's being made to look much better than it is because of the team that he's playing in. The team that he's playing in is a machine. It just rolls on and on and on. You don't need... Pollard took over the captaincy. He didn't change anything. The team kept going in the same way. Like, you don't really need a brilliant leader to lead that team. Anybody can literally, given the players and the talent you have there, you have match winners. We've talked about this in the IPL podcast. You have match winners from 1 to 11. You don't need some tactically news captain to make these big decisions to change the team. Virat Kohli has captained a team which for the longest time has had balance issues. It's had bowling issues where the bowlers have not you don't have this option in your squad, which most of the time is not down to him. It's down to...
But look at the India team though. Look at the India team.
I agree, but Virat Kohli has captained one... Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's only captained one T20 World Tournament, which was that World Cup in 26. Which I don't... Was he captain? Has he captained?
No. I think Dhoni was still captain then.
I don't think he's captain.
I think it was West Indies, right? With West Indies, the last World Cup that we had.
No, but I don't think he was captain there, was he? No.
He was. I don't think he was captain. I think Dhoni was still captain.
He's not captain an international competition. So how are you judging his abilities on bilateral series to captain the T20 team? I think Rohit Shah, what this guy, Akash Chopra asked today or yesterday was what I thought was the right question. Would Rohit Sharma win the title with the RCB teams that Virat Kohli has had over the years? It's not fair to compare the two, especially in IPL format. This is what frustrates me when people compare the two captains based on their IPL performances, because it's completely different captaining a team which is like a machine and has so many brilliant players versus captaining a team where there are so many issues that are blatantly obvious. The one season where Virat Kohli scored 900 runs and took it all upon himself, he took them to the final. Then he lost the final again because his batting collapsed under him. But it's not that much. I don't buy into the argument as yet. Virat hasn't even captained a T20 tournament for India. How are you judging him?
Dipti, let's go over to you. What do you think about the captaincy issue?
IPL team MI, I have seen the documentary of MI. There is less of captain and more of others in that team. If you see, there has been a lot of effort put in by the coaches and even the owners. I saw them speaking more, not to be harsh on Rohit. I would want to see give Rohit chance and see how he performs and then compare him with Virat Kohli in international cricket, not with IPL. And the next thing would be I just forgot. Okay, I'll just come back to you later. It just slipped my mind.
No worries. Have a little think about it while we go over to Rav. Rav, obviously we've been discussing this over and over and over again for a long time, but it just feels like post this last IPL, you've obviously had Akash Chopra come out and make statements. You've had Gautam Gambhir come out and make statements. Gasp, shock, horror. But it feels like there's a slow turning of the tide here where people are actually saying maybe we should give Rohit Sharma a chance, just at least with this T20 team?
Yeah, it's a really interesting debate. And I think I'll slightly separate it from should Virat be the captain to should Rohit be the one that succeeds him. Because I think the answer to the first question is I don't believe he should be the captain. And there's many reasons for that. One is I take the point that he's not had a World T20, but India are blessed with talent that they've never had before. So the time pressure of realizing that talent is actually much greater than it's ever been before. And in my eyes, what I've seen from VK is, he does control quite a lot at RCB. They've had a lot of coach turnover in that time. I can't even count the number of coaches. The number of new squad compositions, whether it's been top-heavy batting, bringing in further bowlers. And really, when you look at that and you look at those same problems that India have had in terms of composition, that RCB have also had, there is a commonality in there, and I do think that needs to be investigated. Is Rohit the guy? In the short term, a lot of people look at obviously 6 IPLs, including Deccan Chargers, and think that's the answer. If people want to have a long-term view, then why don't they look at what South Africa did with Graham Smith and throw it to somebody like Shreyas Iyer or somebody like that, and really just say, look, you know what, we're going to make this a long-term project because we know that T20 World Cups are coming every 2 years. So let's bet a guy in and make sure that he can do the best with what he's got. I personally just think that there's a slight difference in generation between those that started where the IPL was a mass market product, the Gills, the Ayers, etc. Virat obviously came in an earlier generation where first-class cricket had kind of solidified his approach to T20 in the early days, certainly. So I personally think it's India. What have we got to lose? I mean, our results are quite inconsistent in T20.
Yeah, T20, yeah, we're not great, are we?
Sorry, just one thing. I just
go on, Ahan. Yep.
One statistic. So Dhoni in 72 matches had a win percentage in T20 internationals of 59.28%. And Kohli in 37 T20 internationals as captain has a win percentage of 65.71%.
Absolutely.
So his win percent actually is higher than Dhoni's.
Just to come back on that, I mean, look, I love stats. I don't think stats are great, but stats would also tell you that India had the best win percentage of the 2019 World Cup because it's all about those key moments. And just to take you back to kind of previous games and where Virat Kohli, some of the selections, some of the who bowls the 19th over, who bowls the 20th over, sometimes I scratch my head and I think, is he sometimes seeing what a lot of other people are seeing? And I just think actually India have nothing to lose. There's so many tournaments coming up that it's actually, why not experiment? We've got 3 formats for Team India. We're a really strong test side. That didn't used to be the case. It used to be the reverse where we were a great white ball side. So I think we've got to really look at how we get back to that. And Kohli's a great batsman. I think we need his runs more than we need his captaincy.
Yeah, Neha, what do you think about the whole captaincy debate?
My views on RCB and Virat are different, but I think it's too early for us to say that Virat should give up as a captain for T20. We haven't had any major T20 tournament yet. Having said that, it is said that, Virat has not been able to win us a major championship trophy, be it the championship where we lost against Pakistan or be it the World Cup where we lost in the New Zealand. So we have a World Cup coming up. Let's see what happens there. But I think rather than dwindling between Rohit or Virat, as Vav said, bring in the youngsters to lead the side, probably give them a chance and groom them in a captain, which we'll have in the longer format. Rohit Virat will, I think it will be more or less the same because both of them eventually kind of will mutually agree to few decisions, few to not, and etc. and whatever. They will eventually talk to each other and come up with a plan. There might be few plus or minuses here and they're saying this is not great, let's go ahead with that and etc. I think rather than having a competition between Rohit or Virat, let's bring in a younger captain probably to groom, probably looks for and have somebody for the next T20 World Cup, which I'm not sure whenever it is in Australia. So something like that. Doesn't matter Rohit, Virat to me, frankly.
I was just going to make a quick point because I agree with a lot of that. I think one thing that we looked at this during the World Cup podcast, Ash, in terms of if you look at VK as a captain and you look at, you watch the games in the World Cup games, when Dhoni was there, you saw a lot of those decisions still being taken by MS as well.
Yeah, sure.
On the field. So I think it's a really interesting time for India to look at what is Virat the captain when he doesn't have MS on the field to act as a really, really good deputy. Because I saw a lot of games in the World Cup where Virat wasn't even doing field changes or anything like that. And a lot of that is kind of obviously basic captaincy. So I think it's time will tell about how does he change as a captain when he really is the only main guy up there and Dhoni is not there to offer those kind of words of wisdom about what you should be doing at hard stages of a white ball game.
Yeah,
Probably in the
Dipti,
next 2 years, we would see. I would like to see Virat being that deputy, where the future captain coming and going and checking with Virat, how do we need to change the field and etc. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, Dipti, let's go over to you for the final word on the captaincy.
This might seem off or weird coming from a Virat Kohli fan, but I think just like Dhoni gave up on test match totally, and other teams, if you look at it, they have, I'll come at it in a while. So other teams, if you look at it, they have different captains for different format of the game. It is not about how Virat Kohli is as a captain or how Rohit is as a captain. But I think, managing a team like India in all three formats is a pretty big headache. And it would be good to have, someone else, whether it be Rohit or Shreyas as a captain to, kind of take the load off Virat Kohli. And I genuinely see him do that in the near future because he kind of, he says in his interviews, he will do it the day he even may it be playing or may it be captaincy. If he finds that he is not able to do, or if he thinks that there is no spark left in him to do. I'm not able to recall the exact word he uses, but then he said he will take back from it. So I think playing a different captain in different form of a game is okay, but that does not prove or say that Virat Kohli dropped himself because he's not a good captain and someone else is a better captain. So it would just mean that because we have options, why not use different person for different format and kind of keep the mental abilities or I'm not getting the word, yeah. So of the players to be right, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, obviously we're talking about
Ash as well.
We'll say that again, Rav.
You might be too busy changing nappies to play all these games for India.
Well, there is that whole aspect to it as well. Let's not forget. Ahan.
I just thought, just one thing. What Deepthi said actually brought back one comment. I think Michael Vaughan said it on a show I was watching, where he spoke about how it is absolutely impossible to be at the same level of intensity for 365 days if you're leading three different teams. So to possibly give someone else a chance. And honestly, I feel like the captaincy currently in the Indian team is kind of like an overhyped position. Like it is not that important. A captain is very important if you're changing the way that a team functions, changing the mindset of a team. That's why Eoin Morgan was such an important captain, because he completely revolutionized the way that England was going to play their cricket. And I don't think India as a country is at a stage, or the cricket team is at a stage where it's going to revolutionize the captaincy. If Rohit takes over from Virat, the maximum that will change is he'll have a couple of 19th overs will be his score instead of Virat, and maybe 20th over he'll decide who bowls. But I don't think it's going to change much in terms of, oh my God, the way India plays cricket is going to change completely. I just think it'll be like minor changes. So yeah, I mean, if Rohit takes over captaincy, I'm not going to be disappointed. Like I won't be overly upset, but I just don't think it's necessary right now, because I think it could, while people are saying it could free up Virat, I feel like it could destabilize Virat also, unless he gives it up on his own. But Virat doesn't seem to be the kind of guy who's going to give something up like this. Like he seems to be like, he wants to be in the line of fire all the time. He wants to be in your face and at it. And I think if it might tarnish that a bit, unless you never know, fatherhood calms him down a little bit.
And I'm sure he would want like a World Cup title, be T20 under his captaincy as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, speaking of being in the line of fire, there's one aspect to this series that we haven't spoken about as of yet, and that's the team we're playing against in the ODIs and the T20s. Listen to this, everyone. Aaron Finch, Pat Cummings, Sean Abbott, Ashton Agar, Alex Carey, Cameron Green, Josh Hazelwood, Moses Enriquez, Marnus Labuschagne, Glenn Maxwell, Daniel Sams, Kane Richardson, Steve Smith, Mitchell Stark, Marcus Stoinis, Matthew Wade, David Warner, and Adam Zampa.
Is that T20?
That both ODI and T20
ODI and
teams
No,
T20.
are
because
the
Marcus
teams.
Stoinis isn't in the ODI one. I checked that.
There may be the odd difference here and there,
Okay,
but
makes
basically
sense.
that's the team that's down for ODIs and T20s. So, do we actually have a chance of beating these guys? Is my question, because that's a pretty intense team in there, and obviously, we have had a bit of success against Australia, as you can see in the Amazon Prime show, the Test. We had some success against them. However,
Are
they
you
have come a
marketing the
long.
test now?
I'm marketing the test. Yeah, available on Amazon Prime, everyone, for all subscribers. However, they have come a long way since that time. They have come a long, long way. Let's start with Rav. Rav, obviously, we were on cloud 9 when we won that last series. At the moment, let's just stick to white ball at the moment. Do we actually have a chance of beating these guys?
Yeah, India have a chance. I think you look at the last few tours and the white ball legs of those tours, India have done pretty well, apart from that tri-series with England a few years ago. I think that where Australia have clearly learned, and I know obviously Stoinis isn't in that ODI squad, but again, strength and depth all the way down. And I think if you go back to when we played Australia at the Oval, quite a top-heavy batting lineup. Obviously, Warner and Finch, big reliance on them to get runs. Maxwell is a trump card if he wants to be, and if he's feeling right that day and he wants to go out and score good runs. But I also think that you look at the strength and depth of fast bowling. Sean Abbott is, we all know about Sean Abbott, but he's bowling as fast as he's ever bowled before, and they're saying that he might even play the Test matches. So you look at their lead up into a really big summer for Australian cricket, and I think that they're one of the most formidable white ball sides going. And in their own conditions, they just get it done. Zampa's been huge improvement for them. They're really struggling with getting a quality wrist spinner. But since he's come in, he's done a reliable job and did well in India in that series recently as well. So I think they're going to be a huge challenge for the boys. But the good thing is that there's nothing to fear. These guys play against each other all the time these days. So it's just about a different makeup. And I think that there's no secrets about different players' games. I think that means it levels it up quite nicely.
Yeah, Neha, what do you think about our chances against this team in ODIs and T20s?
I think ODIs we do stand a chance. Not that much in T20 probably, but I think ODI definitely. Few things for us to strike. Getting Warner and Smith out, they were not there last year, but we have them this year. So it's not the same team we were facing last year, and we all know that they are literally the pillars of the Australian batting order. So we need to get them out cheaply. For us, Bumrah should strike. Definitely, we need that. So certain aspects to get them cheaply out to strike, probably for Bumrah for us to strike. Somehow I feel Dhawan to have a good innings right here. If all of these four things strike up together, I think we definitely have a chance in ODI. Not 3-0, but 2-1 for sure. T20 looks a distant dream to me as of now for Australia, and in Australia, we can't probably beat them in their backyard for T20. But ODI, we do still stand a chance, provided few things strike together.
Well, Deepti, you know a fair bit about David Warner, of course, one of your heroes at Sunrisers. But what do you think about this Australian team and our chances?
Talking of David Warner, first half of the season he was out of form, and that kind of made all of us sad. But now I wish he goes back to that kind of performance. Yeah, India first. And speaking of IPL performances, there have been players who have done exceedingly well, like Stoinis, and there have been players who have not done well also for them. Steve Smith and Maxwell, David Warner semi. So these kind of things also, if we tell it affects Team India's performance, it must affect even Australian players' performance. So I think, yeah, it would be a tough fight, and just like Rav mentioned, we see each other quite often, so it won't be scary. They know each other's secrets and inside dressing room facts. Because of sharing dressing room, there's a lot that we know about these players. So I think it would be a very tough match, but India do have a chance to win this one. It is kind of 50-50. We can't take India out of it also. Yeah.
Yeah, Ahan.
I actually think man to man we match up quite well with Australia. Like I think compared to let's say like England, I think England are far ahead of us man to man in terms of their squad. But if you look at Australia, we beat them in the T20 in the ODI World Cup pretty convincingly, and the teams are not that much different now than they were at that time. And I think they also have similar like are their openers, our openers. They're both like Dhawan versus Warner. Mayank if he plays versus Finch. They're all quite Kohli versus Labuschagne and who's our fourth? Iyer versus Smith. I mean, the matchups are quite dissimilar kind of players. They've got Maxwell, we've got Pandya. It's a lot of like. At the end of the day, I think we match up quite well with them. ODIs for sure. I think they're a lot more expressive and free when they play T20s compared to India. So I think they start slight favorites in the T20s, but I think in ODIs it's completely a level playing field. I think we have a pretty decent shot as long as Kohli doesn't start losing his wicket to Zampa again. He cannot keep doing that. Please, Zampa cannot keep getting a miss. Literally, he's becoming like a bunny. But I think T20s at Test is what I'm really worried about, especially with Kohli gone. But I think the other two we can still win.
Yes, indeed. And we have reserved our test preview for a separate episode because Lord knows we're going to need a lot of time to go through that.
Why do you want everyone crying on that preview for half an hour?
That's what it's going to be. It's just going to be half an hour of all of us just crying, essentially.
I think more than as Australian people are losing money on it, they'll be crying more for sure probably after Virat is gone.
Yeah, the song's going to change from "We've Got Kohli" to "Where is Kohli?"
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And with that, our white ball preview, our time is up. And that is our predictions for what we think is going to happen for the ODIs and T20s. Personally, the thing that I'm looking forward to the most is that Marcus Stoinis and Adam Zampa will be reunited. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters is what happens in the Love Cafe and, all of their kind of friendship stuff. I hope to follow them on Instagram throughout the whole thing. So that is it. Our time is up for this week on the Bharat Army podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. Of course, like, share, subscribe on all of our social media platforms. Fingers crossed for Team India in the ODI and the T20 series. And with that, we will be back for our Test series preview. So we will see you all then. Jai Hind. ये दोस्ती हम नहीं